Yeah, so for people listening or even watching, it's kind of probably a little small. Basically, I sent this out in my weekly newsletter, and I wanted to discuss the retail ramifications that are happening as it relates to
Look at the title at the bottom. The retail.
Yeah, my title was the retail apocalypse will bring the e-com boom. And it already is, basically. But for those who can't really see this graphic, what it's saying is this is from Credit Risk Monitor, which is a company that is a ratings company for retailers, and they rate basically how likely a retailer is to go bankrupt based on their current balance sheet, income statements, etc. And so a 1, if you have a rating of a 1, it's the worst possible rating. It's a 1 to 10 scale. And the number of companies that were rated 1 are JCPenney, Neiman Marcus, who at the time of this recording had not been bankrupt yet. About 2 days late, or I'm sorry, at the time of this writing, now they are bankrupt. Steinmart, Rite Aid, GameStop, GNC, Party City. Another one was J. Crew. They were also a 1. They went bankrupt. So already 2 of the companies that were on this list.
Yeah,
went
Neiman
bankrupt.
Marcus just declared or filed for bankruptcy protection this morning.
Right.
So I honestly, that retailer has been like kind of outdated in my eyes for a while. They were like a luxury retailer, but it was just a huge markup for things, and they never adapted to the younger audience. So not really surprised. But yeah, it's happening. I mean, a lot of companies are going to realize.
But even big ones who used to be, like another one is L Brands. L Brands owns Victoria's Secret, Pink, and Bath and Body Works. Those are 3 brands that 5-10 years ago were very powerful, strong brands that did really, really well, had great margins, had lots of people shopping at them, and now they're on the verge of bankruptcy too. L Brands was going through. They were trying to sell Victoria's Secret to a separate company to spin it off, and now that basically fell through because of everything that's happened. And L Brands, which 5-10 years ago was this powerhouse company that had these brands, is now facing death's door, basically knocking on death's door.
Right. I mean, and this morning actually we just had the latest unemployment numbers, and another 3 million people or so filed for unemployment. We're up to 33. Which obviously is something. I mean, some of those employments will be recovered, but
but like to put it very simply, there's about 180 million working Americans, and 33 million are now unemployed.
Right.
And so that's.
But the other number
that's basically a sixth, or what is that? 17%, 18% of the
we're going to be at
workforce?
20 plus probably. But the other thing is that majority of these unemployed people today are in 2 or 3 industries, being hospitality, restaurants, obviously, and hospitality, and retailers. Yeah. Those are the major industries. I just listened this morning to another podcast, and I think I heard that 11 million people work in hospitality in the U.S. So that's that's a lot of people that are basically unemployed or furloughed or something, that they're basically not having work. And to make things worse, that's actually the industry that will probably take the longest to recover, based on the phases that the government establishes. Because I mean, they're saying, like restaurants. We discussed that to death last week, and we said, okay, restaurants are going to start opening, and they tell you can only open at 25% capacity or 50% capacity. That's not viable for restaurants to open like that, because if they
same thing with airlines, they were saying, no middle seats. It's like, well, airlines go out of business if they don't sell middle seats.
Well, they have 2 options. Either they double the prices to fly, which obviously is going to be more expensive, but then fewer people will be able to afford to fly, or they don't make the revenue or the profit that they're supposed to, so it's not viable for them to fly with only half a plane being full. The trend has been to squeeze more seats and decrease leg room and everything to put more passengers on the same plane, and now they're telling them to do the opposite, which is basically not feasible. So in a restaurant, it's the same thing. It's you can open with more social distance and more space and only 50% of capacity or something. It's like they tell you, okay, you can drive the car now with 3 wheels. It's like, okay, well, I can't drive the car with 3 wheels. It's just not feasible. So it's almost like might as well just stay close, So in the retail, it's the same thing. I mean, retail is also another challenge, because they're going to have to have more. They're going to have to reinvent the stores and all that. And that's another reason why some of these stores are saying, okay, well, if I'm going to open now with more rules of the game, I may not even. I mean, my margins before were so slim already. I may not be able to reopen. It may just be better off for me to file for bankruptcy and make a deal with my
Right.
creditors.
I
and all
think that the commercial real estate industry, the owners of all these properties, are going to have to come to the realization that, because basically they have two options. I mean, the current rents that most of these stores are paying, they just can't afford them. Because even if we reopen, like you said, and it's at limited capacity, they're not going to make enough money. They just can't afford it with the rent that they have to pay. And so they're going to come to the decision, the real estate owners are going to have to come to the decision, okay, do we basically accept that, or we're going to have to cut our rent prices by 30% to make it so these companies stay in business? Because the alternative is, okay, then they declare bankruptcy and close the store, period. So now you have zero rent. And it's not like there's new people running to open retail stores right now. So I think the property owners are in for a major wake-up call. And I think that the best choice for them, honestly, is to just mark down the prices of the rentals than... Because what would you rather have? Basically, all right, we're going to cut all of our rent 20-30%, or half of our retail space just go to zero. And by the way, there's no one coming to replace them, because those are kind of the choices. It's not an easy choice, but I think that they're going to have to do that. And so far, they haven't wanted to budge. And obviously, I know there's contracts and it's complex, but at the end of the day, if they can't pay, if the person renting can't pay, no different than if it's a house or if it's commercial, they can't pay, they can't pay. And I just think that if you have thousands of stores that basically close down, it's not like those are just going to come back right away, that there's new retailers coming in to fill those spaces.
Well, I remember we said a couple of weeks ago too, when we said that some of the contracts, especially for malls, shopping malls, are based on the anchor stores being there, one of them being Neiman Marcus. So if this store disappears, then a lot of smaller retailers that were feeding off of the customers that were going to Neiman Marcus can say, hey, my lease is off now, my contract is off, because my condition to be here was basically that I was next door to Neiman Marcus, which is now going away, so I can basically break my lease. So that's the whole situation. But one thing that I've been thinking more the last week or so, or maybe a couple of weeks, is this kind of situation where we're getting back to normal, if you will, little by little, trying to say that we're going to reopen little, stores and restaurants and driving and going out and all that stuff. But it looks like there's another, which I never expected. It looks like now there's like another pandemic of fear with people. Like I actually thought, okay, everybody's locked down in their houses, and then as soon as the government says, okay, we're kind of starting to phase out and go out, everybody will be like, oh yeah, let's go out and do everything. But actually, there's a lot of people that are afraid to go out and afraid to go to restaurants, afraid to go shopping. Right.
That's what I was saying, a few weeks ago. I said, okay, even if we reopen things, that doesn't mean, are people just going to be running to movie theaters?
But
I don't think
not
so.
not just the people, the consumers, but also the employees. There are employees that are saying, I don't want to go back to work, and especially people that are in retail and in places like restaurants and things like that. I mean, there's people that work at restaurants that say, I don't know if I want to go back to my restaurant and be there with all these people that I don't know, and I don't know if I had testing protection, all the new requirements to make me feel safe. So well, I mean, you go to a hospital or whatever, people are with all these PPEs and everything, and then you have all this protection, and then all of a sudden you're an employee and they say, all right, we're ready to get started or reopen next week. We're going to have 50% of you guys come out, each of them at a time. We're going to have 50% of people. Okay, that's fine. Let's traffic to a restaurant and all that stuff. But some people are saying no. I mean, like a mother may say, no, I don't want to go there. For one, they're collecting unemployment, which is a bonus these days.
Right.
And secondly, it's like, I don't want to put myself at risk, and then maybe my kids, my house, and all that stuff. So it's not that clear that people want to go back to go out, to normal and all that stuff. Yeah, you hear all the beaches are full and all that stuff. That's different. That's just people going to a beach, biking and doing whatever they want. But when it comes to going to public places, I don't think it's that clear that a restaurant opens and then, finally we are reopening. No, that doesn't mean that you're going to have A, people there, and B, any margins or profits or anything else. The same for retailers and everything. So it's a little bit of a question mark to me how that's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think people are going to be rushing out. I mean,